cities. In terms of anything except individual rights, have these communities seen other benefits?
Yeah. I mean, I think what's happened is that these very scary Gestapo-type raids where immigration control and enforcement go into neighborhoods, go into Latino neighborhoods and start demanding to see people's papers. That type of ICE raid becomes very difficult when local police don't participate, and when they can't go through the police station and say, can you check this, or and also when the city, when the federal government is on notice that the people in the city are not going to support them in any way. I think it's a moral stance, it's a principled stance, and it's also it's a practical stance. Yeah.
Do you call Utah a Christian state?
Would I call Utah a Christian state? I don't know anything about religion. I mean, I suppose you're talking about whether Christians should act this way with respect to. I don't see that it's anyone's religion has stopped them from doing anything that I've ever seen. So I don't quite understand the question. Tim in the back.
For the citywide amnesty, would that in essence be a city's act of civil disobedience to refuse to follow an unjust law?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it would be. I'm not quite sure. It's a little tricky because the people who wrote SB 81 were quite aware of this as a problem. And it's the same problem with this issue of sexual orientation, putting an ordinance in to prevent discrimination based on sexual orientation. There's this legal concept called preemption, where if the Utah legislature wields with great effect, where they can claim that they have legislated on this area, in this area, and therefore municipalities, counties and municipalities are not allowed to speak on the subject at all. But so there's the preemption challenge with respect to sexual orientation in terms of declaring Salt Lake City an amnesty city. It's very clear in the law that that's illegal. So yes, it would be a form of civil disobedience at the city level, and that happened in 1850. You know, it happened in Boston, it happened in New York, it happened in Philadelphia. People just did not participate. People who weren't even opposed to slavery. They were just opposed to the idea that the government could come in and say, tell you that you had to suddenly become part of a police force, or you'd be committing a felony. Sorry, here.
This goes along with Tim's question. So what if I wrote on any government official and said that, just by the way, I refuse to support this SB 81 if I know anybody, I'm not going to tell you. I mean, I'm not going to participate. What are the ramifications for that? Do they have your name? I mean, I'm not really, I just wondering what, if people started doing that, would they have anything against you, or what?
I know, were you going to answer that? Or?
Along those lines, speaking of what you can actually do right now, sorry, I think your Tom's against SB 81.
Okay, great. Do you want to come up here?
I'll stay here. There are a lot of things going on behind the scenes. The most important thing you can do right now is talk to people you know that are undocumented and reassure them that you can support them. There are actually groups of people packing up their families and leaving the state out of fear of being thrown in jail and deported. The problem is they are detaining people without charging them with any crimes. I know under the provisions of SB 81, people have to actually be charged with a felony. Well, we know with reporting. The ACLU is preparing a lawsuit against this. They're trying to get the national organization on board. What we need to do is document real situations of people being discriminated against, having their civil rights violated. There's a lot of interest going on, but really more than anything, there's a lot of fear. And even if you're not Hispanic, even if you don't know Hispanic people, talk about it, write an op-ed about it. Just stand up for the rights of other people, because this does go along the lines of civil rights in general, and all of these issues tie together. It's incredibly important that we help each other out and speak out.
I think I just wrote on the board with a permanent marker. Oh well. Any other questions? One thing I wanted to just talk about briefly is that I have to say, I think it's very important. Actually, this is a little thought experiment. I was wondering if anyone could tell me the difference between this phrase, women and people of color. Okay, women and people of color.
Women are people.
Women and people of color, and this phrase, white women and people of color.
There are no black women or people of color that are women.
Right,
Damn women.
right. And so one of the things I asked when invited to talk here was, would there be any other people of color? And I was told, well, we try our best to make sure that women are represented, and as if this was this big lump of category in which, where the group that remains completely unmarked is white men, and everybody else is sort of, different or other. And it's an attitude that's very, well, I'm tired of it. And I wanted to make sure that people were aware of one basic resource. I don't know if people know of this short article. It's 4 pages long, called White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack by Peggy McIntosh. Can I just have a show of hands? Are people familiar with that? Okay, all right, so probably, most people under 30, or people who are professors. It'd be a good document to get distributed more widely, and there's a couple of, in it she's a white woman, and she lists, the central part of the article is a list of privileges that she has, that she had to sort of really think hard about being conscious of. It's a list of 26 items. There are many more, but these are the ones she chose, and I decided to read just a couple of them for you. I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time. If I should need to move, I can be pretty sure of renting or purchasing housing in an area which I can afford and which I would want to live. I can be pretty sure that my neighbors in such a location will be neutral or pleasant to me. I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I will not be followed or harassed. If I want to, I can be pretty sure of finding a publisher for this piece on white privilege. Whether I use checks, credit cards, or cash, I can count on my skin color not to work against the appearance of my financial reliability. I can swear or dress in secondhand clothes or not answer letters without having people attribute these choices to bad morals, the poverty, or the illiteracy of my race. I can speak in public to a powerful male group without putting my race on trial. I can do well in a challenging situation without being called a credit to my race. I am never asked to speak for all the people of my racial group. I can be pretty sure that if I ask to talk to the person in charge, I will be facing a person of my race. I can go home from most meetings or organizations I belong to feeling somewhat tied in, rather than isolated, out of place, outnumbered, unheard, held at a distance, or feared. So I would just encourage everyone to get a copy of this. You can download it on the internet.